Call now to put an end to your loose steering. But wait, there's more.
Proceed with caution, 1091. This guy's got some sloppy steering.
And the judge's results?
So sloppy.
Loose, sloppy steering can be caused for a variety of reasons, so it's important to identify the proper cause. In the case of my 4Runner, it was due to this: worn bushings on the end links, sway bar, and steering rack itself. Let's fix it. Today, we're going to be upgrading this 2001 4Runner with energy suspension steering bushings and Prothane's 26mm front sway bar bushings. These bushings are made of polyurethane and considered an upgrade from stock components. We'll also be using some silicone paste to limit squeaking, as well as a ball joint press and a 4-wheel drive ball joint adapter set to give the bushings somewhere to go when pressed out. Both of these tools may be rented for free from your local auto parts store. Before starting, be sure to chock your wheels and lock your steering wheel so you don't throw your alignment off. Don't get crushed. Rest the 4Runner on 6-ton jack stands and remove the front wheels and skid plates. Let's begin by removing the top 14mm bolt from the sway bar end links. Take note that for reinstallation, the concave side of the washer goes towards the bushing. Next, using a 12mm socket, remove the bracket holding from the sway bar to the frame. Remember that the bolt goes towards the back of the vehicle and the nut towards the front. We'll be replacing bushings from 3 different areas on the steering rack. One from under the passenger side bracket, one from the center bracket, as well as the bushing located closest to the driver's side. Now, energy suspension suggests removing the driver's side tie rod from the steering knuckle. This job can be done without this step, but it's much easier if you do it because you have more room to work. To do this, remove the cotter pin from the tie rod and throw it away. You want a fresh one for the reinstall. Use a breaker bar and crack the castle nut loose. Using a pitman arm puller or a tie rod end puller, place the forks between the steering knuckle and the boot. Be careful not to pinch the edges of the boot or you'll tear them and have another job on your hands. Once in place, tighten the bolt on the puller against the top of the tie rod bolt and break it free. With the driver's side tie rod free and sway bar removed, we can remove the steering rack from the crossmember. Starting with the passenger side bracket, remove the 19mm bolt and nut. Note the orientation when disassembling. The bolt goes on top and the nut goes on bottom. Also keep in mind the split of the bushing faces down. Using a breaker bar and a 19mm socket, loosen the bolt perpendicular to the ground from the welded center nut. Then remove the 22mm nut from the bolt going through on the driver's side. Nut, washer, busted up bushing. Before pressing out the bushings, remove the bolt stabilizing the power steering fluid lines. This bolt is located near the driver's side frame, directly under the oil filter. It can be removed with a 12mm socket. This will allow us to pull the rack further away from the vehicle and give enough clearance to remove everything. Gently pull the steering rack away from the front cross member. Place the widest of the 4-wheel drive adapter receiving tubes between the worn out driver's side bushing and the steering rack. Using a 22mm socket, drive the ball joint press into the old bushing and remove it. Be careful not to damage the inner collar of the steering rack with the threads of the press in this process. Using this same process, apply the adapter to the top of the perpendicular bushing in the center of the rack. Drive out the old bushing from the bottom. Use a degreaser to clean all the areas where the new bushings will sit. Once dry, we will apply a liberal amount of silicone paste to these areas. This will help limit squeaking, as well as make installation much easier. After lubricating the inner diameter of the driver's side, lube up the longest energy suspension bushing on all sides. Push one half in from the back and the other half in from the front. Lube the longest collar and press this into the new bushings. Place the provided energy suspension washer between the bushings and the ball joint press. Slowly turn the press until the sleeve is flush with the bushings on both sides. Once flush, place the washer onto the long bolt going through the crossmember. Lubricate this washer and then slide the steering rack onto this bolt so the new washer is sandwiched between the crossmember and the new bushings. Repeat this process in the center using the smaller bushings and sleeve from energy suspension. No washers are associated with this install. Remember to lubricate all surfaces. If needed, use the press to again align the sleeve. For the passenger side bushing, lubricate all the clean surfaces that will come in contact with the bushing. Install the lubricated bushing so that the split is facing downward. Lubricate the outer diameter and reinstall the collar. Mine had a small hole on the upper aspect of the collar closest to the top bolt. Reinstall the bolt on top and nut on the bottom. Then, on the driver's side bushing, reinstall the washer and nut. Energy suspension suggests tightening this 22mm nut on the driver's side and the 19mm fasteners on the U-bracket on the passenger side until the sleeve and the center mount lines up with the mounting holes in the crossmember, and torque all fasteners to spec. 123 foot-pounds on the passenger side U-bracket, 123 foot-pounds on the center bolt, and 141 foot-pounds on the long bolt to the driver's side crossmember. Don't forget to reattach the bolt securing the power steering lines on. Next, reassemble the driver's side tie rod to the steering knuckle. Tighten the castle nut to 67 foot-pounds. 67. Install a new cotter pin and bend one length over the castle nut to secure it in place. Then, lubricate all sides of the end link bushings and install them so the nipple will fit into the inner sway bar diameter. Lube the sway bar bushings and the inner sides of the brackets that will be holding them into place. Install the bushings so the split faces the rear of the vehicle. Then tighten these brackets to 19 foot-pounds. Install the top end link bushing and then reinstall the washer so the concave side faces this bushing. To ensure the end link bushings seat correctly, reinstall the tires for proper weight. With the tires on, torque the top end link nut to 22 foot-pounds. Reinstall the skid plate, and we're good to go.